Okay, so let's get started. So my name is Lev Blinder. I made Aliyah with my family from New York in 2002, and we moved from New York to Beit Shemesh. I may have decent English, but forgive my accent or whatever it is, but I'm Israeli at the end of the day, so forgive me if my English is not perfect. So over the years in the Israeli real estate market, I realized that it's complicated for Jews around the world to buy real estate here in Israel, um, and I found with the language barriers and with all the rest of the barriers. So I founded IL 360 to bridge that gap and to give our clients a 360 package of services to meet all their real estate needs while purchasing a property. So at IL 360, we really take pride in our exceptional customer service and our availability. And we're really experts in the Carmei Gad and Beit Shemesh markets. And on that note, I'd like to formally introduce my co-host, Nechemia Kaufman.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lev. Lev's been a great guy, taught me everything I know. So that's it's been really a pleasure working with him, alongside him. And I'm really happy to have Zevi Rupel on. He's a tremendous lawyer, tremendous asset. He's done amazing work, and he's able to really bridge the gap between, the legal side on just purchasing a house in Israel, a property in Israel, and making it really smooth. So thank you, Zevi, for joining.
Thank you guys for hosting.
So right before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that these have not been easy times for the Jewish people, both in Israel and in diaspora. In Israel, we're currently in the middle of a war fighting the Nazi terrorist organization Hamas. And I know
we also have the Hezbollah up north.
Yeah, we got up north, we got down south. Up north doesn't get as much publicity, but there's definitely over 100,000 people who have moved out of the north because of that. So it's really crazy, but also around the world. I know there's some terrible anti-Semitism, and just it's horrifying to see the college campuses now, and it's just around the country. You see huge pro-Palestinian protests, and they don't really know what's going on. Just the fact that they don't like the Jews in Israel and Jews altogether, and it's just terrible. But yet, even these difficult times, there is a unique opportunity for the Jewish people to stand together and act. It comes in all forms. You have people davening, huge donations have been made to soldiers, and now all around support to families who were and continue to be affected. And it's time to come home and embrace the undeniable sense of belonging that resonates throughout Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. If you ask anyone in Israel, they tell you they feel the power of unity. And in these times of adversity, Jews don't get up. We stand together, we stand firm and continue building Israel. So what makes Carmei Gad special? So we're going to talk about the Carmei Gad community, the Carmei Gad project that we're, showcasing today. And, right before we dive in, we want to know what we're looking for. So some of the things that we're looking for are location, right? You want excellent connectivity to your surroundings, to job opportunities, right? You want employment opportunities. You want a wonderful community to be a part of, and you want a nice neighborhood, right? It has to be pleasant, has to be inviting, and you want affordable housing. So those are probably the most important things you look for in a community when you want to buy a city or a neighborhood, and a community when you want to purchase a property. So this is a map of Israel, and we're going to see where Carmei Gad is. As you can see on the bottom, you can see Carmei Gad. We see it on the top, you see Tel Aviv, Modi'in, Jerusalem, Beit Shemesh, right? That's Route 6, which is a highway that, it crosses Israel from north to south. And we have a train from Carmei Gad all the way to Tel Aviv. So this is just an idea, so you get where it's, where it is situated, as to other different cities, major cities, Tel Aviv, Modi'in, Beit Shemesh, and Jerusalem. All right, so now we dive in and we see where the city of Kiryat Gat is and the neighborhood of Karmei Gat. So the neighborhood of Karmei Gat is in the city of Kiryat Gat. Kiryat Gat has been around for many decades, and Karmei Gat is a relatively new neighborhood. It's been around for around 10 years. And it's what we have over here. You know, it's outlined in red. Okay, and we have the old city of Kiryat Gat in this area right here. So one of the wonderful things about Karmei Gat is the train station, right? Well, like we said before, we want excellent connectivity, and a train gives you tremendous connectivity to, you know, the Tel Aviv area, and basically that's where a lot of the jobs are. It gives you endless opportunities as far as that. It allows you to travel effectively throughout Israel, connecting in other train stations. And we're very proud to have a train station in our city. And not only that, is currently the train station is right here, as you can see. And the new train station is actually going to be in this area right here. It's going to be a 7-minute walk from our development. Another tremendous thing that we have going for us in the city of Karmei Gat, the Kiryat Gat, and the neighborhood of Karmei Gat is Intel. So this whole area right here is an industrial area, and Intel has spent $15 billion constructing one of the biggest plants in Israel. They're actually the largest private employer in Israel, and they've committed to spending an additional $25 billion to expand this plant, and they make high-end chips, semiconductor chips, for, you know, throughout the world. So that's a great you know, job opportunity. And not only that, is they have other high-tech companies that service Intel, and, you know, not only but also service Intel. I have a cousin of mine who works in a company called Meptagon, who works in this area, which is just tremendous. So this is a booming area, also for residential, also for employment opportunities and connectivity. It's really tremendous. So now we zoom in, and we're looking at the neighborhood of Karmei Gat. And so this is a map of the neighborhood. Our development is right here, right this area right here. We're going to see a little bit more about that in a little bit. And we have, so we're right in the middle of everything. And this neighborhood is just a tremendous neighborhood. It's just wonderful to be in. It's really clean, it's flat. It has everything you need to, you know, really enjoy a full experience of a well-developed neighborhood. You have doctor's offices, you have schools, you have shopping, you have restaurants, you have gas stations, you have shuls. Pretty much anything a family needs to really thrive in a community, in the neighborhood, it already has, which is tremendous. They have one of the biggest parks in the whole, you know, area, in the surrounding cities. We're going to see a little bit more about that in a little bit.
I think their sports center is one of the largest ones in Israel.
In Israel, there you go. So they have a sports center, which is one of the largest sports centers in Israel, which is really tremendous. And I think there's a video about that, right? Yeah. So they have a shopping mall, they have local stores, and it's just a wonderful place to be. And our development is smack in the middle of all of that. So let's see a short video of the park. All right, so over here, just going to stop it briefly just so you get an idea. So we're looking at beach volleyball over here. Okay, we're looking at a soccer pitch for Americans and football for the Europeans. We have a skateboarding park. We have tennis courts. We have basketball courts. We have mini pitches. We have bike trails. Okay, with walking trails.
Running trail.
There's a running trail. We have bike trails. These are 2 climbing facilities. It's just tremendous. This is actually the mall we were talking about. It's significantly more built now. So this is really tremendous. This is another mall.
This is our development right over here. So we're very, very close proximity to this part. If I go back, do you see these two traffic circles right over here? So we'll focus on to this square in a second. So here are the two traffic circles that I was showing you before. So we have 6 buildings and 22 semi-detached homes. Here, these 4 buildings, 1, 2, 4, and 5 are lower buildings. 3 and 6 are higher towers. And then here we have our semi-detached homes. Now, Nehemiah mentioned the community earlier. The community center in the shul of the Anglos is going to be right over here. They just got this piece of land. Currently, they're on Sderot Karmei Gat, but right over here is where they got a piece of land. So it's literally going to be smack in the middle of where we are, which is incredible. Here you could see a rendering of the buildings. These are the 2 towers and the 4 lower buildings. We have a very large variety of different types of apartments and things. But here is a picture of how the cottage should look like. Semi-detached villa. It has 5 bedrooms, 2,200 square feet or 209 square meters, a beautiful garden. It has a very cool rooftop that is also very practical and very useful and large. And it also, you could add a pool, you could also add a basement, depends on which one you buy. So this is just a little taste. If you're interested in more information, you could contact us. By the way, there is a question and answer box, which we will be answering at the end of the session. And we're also going to send you our details and an email with a recording of this. That way you could send it out to your friends or rewatch it. So this is a classic 4-bedroom apartment. You walk in, you have your living room, dining room area, you have a porch, you have a storage room that's connected to the apartment, which is a very big plus. And then you have 4 bedrooms. This one is actually a bomb shelter as well. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this one is a master bedroom, which is great. It's a very nice spacious feeling, and we have a variety of different types of apartments that we could offer. So just to give you a little bit of a ballpark of the prices. So prices for a 2-bedroom apartment are starting from $530,000. For a 3-bedroom apartment, US dollars. For a 3-bedroom apartment, prices are starting from around $590,000 US dollars. And for a 4-bedroom apartment, prices are starting from around $650,000 dollars. And we have very cool terms that we could offer today, which is you pay 10% down, and then the rest is basically upon completion. There is a process that you need to go through, which is very interesting. I'll be happy to elaborate. The estimate completion date is around 3.5 years. It depends on the building. So we have buildings that are around 3 years, buildings that are around 4 years, and with the cottages, it's around 2.5 years. So that's basically that basically covers our grounds. So if we go back to the list we brought up before, so in terms of the location and the employment opportunities, you literally have unlimited opportunities since you're just about a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes from Tel Aviv, especially with a new train station that's going to come up. We also have Intel, which is right next door, and a few other high-tech companies that are right next door, just a few-minute drive. So it's definitely a very good, there are a lot of very good employment opportunities. You also have Route 6, which is right by us, that connects you to the rest of Israel. And then in terms of a community, I don't know if we mentioned it before, but there are around 250 Anglo families at least currently living in Karmei Gat. And there are hundreds of families planning to live or even that purchased in Karmei Gat already. So it's definitely going to be it definitely is one of the go-to places today for families that are making Aliyah. And there are good schools. There's a very good Anglo community here, and it's definitely worth to check this out. And in terms of the neighborhood, it's a beautiful, new, clean neighborhood. they're always, every time I go there, they're dealing with the gardening, and it looks better and better. You also have you have a mall that's about to open up, and you also have a bunch of different shopping areas. You literally have everything right by your house, and you're also connected to Kiryat Gat, which is a literal city that's been there for many years, that even has a courthouse and even has, you know, a bunch of the core things that cities across Israel don't have, they actually have. And then you also have the aspect of affordable housing that, compared to central Israel and other areas like that, it's much more affordable. So that basically sums it up. And before we continue to question and answer, I'd like to introduce my good friend and colleague, Zevi Rubel, who is a diligent lawyer who really takes care of his clients and does amazing work on all fronts. So please, I'll stop my sharing.
Thank you very much, Lev. Just a moment, let me bring it up. Okay. Did everybody see the screen? So first of all, thank you, Lev and Nechemia, for hosting me. Once again, it's a pleasure working with you. Just to touch upon what Nechemia started out with, maybe the Jewish aspect. Just a week ago, we read the Haftarah for Parashat Behar, and there the Navi is told that, again, he's dealing with a hard time. They're about to go into exile. And what is the thing that Yirmiyahu is told to do? He's told to buy a plot of land. So we see that, you know, definitely as someone who works in the business, it was very much rang that message that in hard times, real estate can be a sign, a show of faith, a show of, you know, a hope for the future. We definitely see that in our practice, people buying and definitely showing interest and involvement here in the local market. So just to touch upon myself in a few words, my name is Zevi Rubel. I am from Chaim Givati & Co. Law Office in Yerushalayim. We're a boutique law firm. We deal with all things real estate, mostly for clients from abroad and English-speaking clients here in Israel. So today I'm going to just touch upon a few points relating to purchasing real estate in Israel. First, I'll just talk about some practical matters. I'll put it under the title, Going to Contract. You've decided that you're buying a property. What next? I'm then going to touch upon a few pointers about buying on paper, as they say, which is basically what the project that we're speaking about here in Karmei Gat is, a new project that is not yet built. You're buying it on paper. And third, the topic that you can't do without, which is taxes. So let's dive in. So you've decided that you're buying a property. You've, you know, looked at all, you know, all the different options, the different what's available to you, and you've decided that you're purchasing a house in Karmei Gat. What next? So first, there's a few things that happen simultaneously. The first is contract negotiation. You have to settle what are the exact terms of the contract. That, of course, includes the commercial terms. What is the price of the contract? What's going to be the payment schedule? What are the technical specifications? Each apartment comes with a certain, you know, set default technical specifications that you might want to speak about or look over and speak about with the builder. Upgrades, things of that nature. What is the date that, like Lev mentioned, when is the exact date that the contractor commits to delivering the apartment to you? That's important to know because you might be planning your aliyah or, you know, your finances based on that date. We, the lawyers, when you would turn to me, let's say, or any lawyer and say, you know, I want you to represent me in a deal, we start dealing with the contract. Usually a contract that comes from a contractor is a very long 30, 40, 50 page document, you know, with many clauses, more like legal terms that we, the lawyers, start negotiating with the seller's lawyer. What are, you know, sometimes there are contracts that have more problematic, less problematic clauses, and that is something that is negotiated between us. And we usually come to some sort of, you know, we have like an addendum with changes and amendments that we have to the contract. An important thing to note is the concept of closing. In the U.S., when you talk about closing a transaction, you usually mean finishing. You sign a deal, then you do your due diligence, your financing, and only once those things clear, you go forward and you close on the property and make the final payment. In Israel, the defining date for any contract is the date of signing. You are meant to do all your due diligence and your questions of financing and title, whatever it is, before you sign. And once you sign, legally, that is the date that is, it's set, it's a done deal, and all of your obligations stem from that date forward. Taxes, payments, fees. Once the contract is signed, the deal is done. So it's important to have, let's say when you're buying from a contractor, so it's a new property, you don't have what to look at the property itself yet, it's not yet built. Financing, for instance, that's something that's important to know before you sign, so that you know where your financing for the deal is coming from, and you're not going to find yourself during the term of the contract not knowing how you're going to finish paying for the apartment. Second thing that happens simultaneously is drafting of different documents for signing. There's different documents that we would need in order to process the agreement, especially if, as happens in many instances, you, the purchasers, are not here physically in Israel to sign the contract. This happens very often. People, can decide that they're buying something from afar. They don't have to visit Israel. They let somebody here know that they want to buy, and we process the documents for them. We have to set up a power of attorney. There's different declarations to the tax authority. There's a set of documents that needs to be drafted in order to put the deal in motion. When signing for someone from abroad, there are different ways in which you can go about getting those documents authenticated and valid here in Israel. For anybody who knows what's called the apostille system, in which you sign before a local notary, and that notary sends it to to have an additional stamp added to it called an apostille, which allows for it to be recognized internationally. So this is a process that can also take some time. Obviously, if you're in Israel, as mentioned here, then you could just sign before any lawyer. If you're here before me, I can authenticate your signature and prepare all the documents. You don't need to, it's the simple process. But if you're abroad, that's something that might take some time. So that's usually something that we put in motion simultaneously to dealing with the contract. The third thing that needs to be dealt with once you've decided that you're buying is finances. In every purchase, there'll be a down payment of financing that you'll have to put forward from equity. You could decide to take a mortgage, but that usually has to come later, and it's usually considered the last payment after you've paid your equity part. And so you have to deal with getting your money here to Israel, which might sound like a simple thing, but it could be more complicated than you might imagine. Definitely coming from the U.S., there's compliance issues, there's matters in compliance, and banks here have been fined over the years very heavily by the U.S. government and the IRS, and so it's a bit of a process in and of itself, and therefore that's something that should be taken care of in a timely fashion, so that you have your money in place here in Israel when you want to sign. We said there's many change companies that we refer many of our clients to that help with that process. We also set up bank accounts for our clients, which is also an option. But either way, you need to find a way to get your money over here in order to be able to make payments. So that is the third thing that is to be taken care of once you decide that you're going to contract. Next, so we're buying on paper. To touch upon a few of the specifics of what does that mean to be buying on paper. So first thing is, what are the rights that you are purchasing? In many of the new construction that is here in Israel, and you'll hear this term of long-term lease rights. In essence, the state of Israel holds on to the official title ownership of many of the new land that is given to contractors to build, and what they pass on to purchasers is long-term lease rights. These long-term lease rights could be 99 years, it could be 1,000 years even, I've seen. In practice, it's the same thing as private ownership, but it's something to be aware of, that when you see that it's, if you'll see somewhere explained to you that it's long-term lease rights, it's the same thing as privately owning your property. It just means that the state of Israel, on the deed, will say that the state of Israel is the official owner, and you, Mr. and Mrs. Friedman, have long-term lease rights for 100 years. Those long-term lease rights are also usually automatically extended, so it's really a formality. Bank financing and bank vouchers, bank guarantees. So when building new projects in Israel, the contractor, the way it works is a system was put in place to safeguard purchasers, so that their money is not just given to any contractor who then could go belly up and run away with their money. What happens is the contractor gets financing from a bank is considered a solvent institution. That's what's called too big to fail, right? It's considered to be a very stable institution, and you pay to the bank. You don't pay your money to the contractor, you pay to the bank. The bank in turn releases money to the contractor based on its own arrangement with him, based on the progress of the building and all sorts of different landmarks that he has with the contractor. And for every payment that you pay into the bank, you are issued a bank guarantee. That bank guarantee is kishmo kenu, as it said, it's the bank guaranteeing the money that you have paid in. And should, in the worst case scenario, something happened to the project and the contractor goes bankrupt or something like that, so one of two things will happen. Either the bank, being as it has a mortgage on the land and it's the one that was releasing funding, he'll bring in a different contractor to finish the project, or this is something that in my experience is pretty rare, you will be able to actualize the bank guarantee and get your money back. So either way, your money is protected, and you are safe when you are purchasing from a contractor. It should be noted, though, that this bank financing kicks in once the project has a building permit, because the bank will only issue financing to a project that's already a bit further along the way and has an official permit to start building. If the project sometimes this happens if you're buying in a stage called pre-sale, the project doesn't have a permit yet. So by law, the company could take up to 7% without a bank guarantee, which is usually held in escrow by the company's lawyers until they get a permit and they can issue bank guarantees, after which payments will continue. So if it's an early stage of the project and there's still no permit, it could be that you will pay up to 7% in escrow without a bank guarantee. But once again, the moment you get the project gets a permit, everything moves over to bank guarantees and your money is safe. Something to note about new building is the building index. Just like there's consumer price index, there is what's called building index, which is an index issued by the Bureau of Statistics, which follows price of goods, materials, labor in the construction and the real estate market. When you're buying from a builder, future payments are linked to this index. At this stage, it's not the entire price is linked to the index. It's only a partial amount of the payment is linked to the index, 40%. But the meaning of that is that if you now buy an apartment and you pay 20%, and in another year you have another 20% to pay, that 20% will have an added calculation of what the index has changed in that year. So if the index has changed 1%, let's say, for example, so that 20% payment that you're making in a year will have tacked on another 1% of that 20%. Because of the building index. Again, something just to be aware of. The VAT. Many foreigners, they're not used to VAT. They know that if that's something that they collect on goods when they leave and they get to Ben Gurion, and they're able to collect the VAT on the goods of things that they bought here in Israel. That's only true when you leave the country with what you bought. When you're buying an apartment that stays in Israel, you're charged VAT. VAT at the moment is 17%, and it should be noted that on the 1st of January 2025, the VAT is going up to 18%. Again, this is the decision by the government. This is not something that any one contractor controls, and that is something that is statewide. Walk through a warranty. Per law, every new apartment that you buy is under warranty by the contractor for a certain set amount of time. There's different items that are under warranty for different periods, a year, 2 year, 4 year, depending on what the item is. It's all detailed in a sales law that goes through a list of these warranties. And in order to, what you do when you get the apartment, you'll be called, like Lev said, in 3.5 years, the apartment is ready. The contractor will call you to do a walkthrough of the apartment, which you go through the apartment with yourself. We suggest to our clients sometimes they take an engineer to go through the apartment with them, to make sure that the apartment was built according to the plans, that the angles of the, let's say the bathroom, that the bathroom floor is on the right angle, or that the paint was done well, whatever it is. And then you write a protocol with the contractor of different items that were found to be not according to the plans. And per that protocol, the contractor is under warranty to have to take care of things that were not done according to the plans. So those are a few points about buying on paper. Moving on to everyone's favorite topic, the taxes. So when you purchase a property in Israel, there is a purchase tax. The flat purchase tax in Israel is at the moment 8% for foreigners buying in Israel. The default is that the purchase tax has to be reported within 30 days of signing. If you remember, I said that the official date when you purchase in Israel is the date of signing. That's the legal date that everything stems forward from. You have to report the deal within 30 days, and purchase tax is due within 60 days of signing. So within 2 months, you have to pay the purchase tax. I will say that there is an option. I'll jump here to point number 5. Section 51 of the tax code basically says that you could defer your purchase tax until you've paid 50% of the purchase price. So if you have a comfortable payment schedule of 2080 or 1585, whatever it is, in theory, you could defer your purchase tax until you've paid 50% of the purchase price, which could be for 2-3 years down the line. Should be noted, though, that if you do that, the tax will have an additional index and interest, but there won't be fines. So there is an amount that is tacked on to that purchase tax, but for some people, if their money is making more elsewhere, they prefer to not liquidate that and, have a little whatever the additional tax is, and to pay it in a few years' time. So that's for the purchase. There is no property tax in Israel in the same way that there is in the States. There is Arnona, which is a municipal tax that is charged for municipal services, transportation, garbage, things of that nature, but it is not in the same way. That's an annual tax, and it is not in the same extent that it is in the States. Going back to the purchase tax, there are two prevalent discounts that one may apply for when it comes to purchase tax. The first is the single residency discount, which applies only if you are a resident of Israel. You don't have to be a citizen. You don't have to have a Tudat Zehut, but you have to be a resident, meaning you're living here. And for tax purposes, you live in Israel. The rule of thumb is you're here over 183 days a year. And you have to prove it with some additional thing, but that's the rule of thumb. And if you do that, you're able to apply for a discount in the purchase tax. Again, that applies only if it's your only property, and you can use that once. The second discount that you can use is your aliyah. You have a one-time aliyah discount that you can use. It can be used also for a second property. In other words, it doesn't have to be your only one, but you do have to be living in that property. So again, single residency discount has to be used on your first property. You have to be living in Israel in order to use it. And the second discount is your aliyah. It could be used on a second property, but you have to be living in that apartment. So when we have clients that know that they're going to buy 2 apartments, for instance, so we'll tell them and they're moving to Israel, the first apartment, they should use their single residency, and the second, they should use their aliyah. Something that some clients do in order to be able to enjoy this discount is they purchase an apartment in a child's name. If you have a child who's been learning in yeshiva for 2 years, or he's planning on making aliyah and he's in university in the meantime here in Israel, some people buy an apartment in their child's name because the child is eligible for the discount, being as he's lived here for over 2 years, and then they're able to enjoy the discount when buying the apartment in the child's name. Okay, so just this is a bit more in detail. I'll just, in an overview, residency, right? We say who's an Israeli resident, somebody who's, rule of thumb, been here over 183 days a year. This just gives you an idea of what is the breakup of the tax. It's up to close to 2 million shekel at 0, then it goes up in percentages. As I said, the default, if you don't have the discounts, is 8% tax, 8% of the entire purchase price. Can be established within 2 years from the purchase date. So if you make aliyah within 2 years, you can apply retroactively for the single residency discount, and not relevant in case of a second purchase, as we said. Aliyah rights, like we said, is a one-time discount that you can use. Can be used for purchases starting 1 year prior or 7 years post aliyah. So you could, if you buy the property 1 year before making aliyah, or within 7 years of making aliyah, you could use this discount. And can be used for a second purchase. Those are just an overview of a few points from the legal side. Here are my details. I'm sure Lev and Nechemia will share them later, and I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have on these or other topics. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll go through the question and answer now. I see a bunch of people have put in questions. Second, here's our contact info in the meantime. You could also scan this barcode that will go directly to me. We could start chatting. Let's start answering some questions.
So some people asked about pickleball courts.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. So I'm not sure what kind of courts exactly we have. We have these ping pong tables that look like ping pong tables, but are sort of rounder at the end. I'm not sure if that's pickleball, excuse me. I'm not very sporty, but we definitely have a variety of sports we're able to offer, and it's just a wonderful place.
There's another one that asked about how far this community is from Jerusalem and how far it is from Gaza. So we're about 55 minutes drive from Jerusalem. It could be even less in less rush hour times, in off-peak times. And we're about 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes from like the border probably to Gaza. Even though that Karmei Gat didn't really get I think Beit Shemesh even got more hit than Gaza than Karmei Gat.
I think they had like two.
They had on the first day they had a few, and then afterwards they had maybe like 4 times altogether.
Yeah.
So it's not so bad, especially now. Let's see. The prices for the semi-detached houses are a little complicated with the different packages that you take. So if you could just speak to us directly for whoever asked that. People asked about the schools and resources for Olim. So there are definitely resources for Olim and there are definitely schools, but I think it'll be, it's an answer that every person needs to see what his needs are and what their needs are to be able to figure that out. There are definitely, there's a lot more help than there used to be in Karmei Gat for Olim, and there's a lot more awareness, but there's still a place to go, and they're working on it. So it is getting better. There are new schools that are opening up, but definitely the community is giving a lot of support all around. So people asked about the quality of building. So this builder is called Ben. The way that it works in Israel is that usually there's a company, there's like an entrepreneurial company that basically buys the land and brings the builders. So at the end of the day, the company is a great company. The builder will be chosen shortly. Currently, we're speaking to people also asked about how the current situation is affecting construction. So we're currently negotiating. The 2 top companies that we're negotiating with are Chinese companies. So the construction shouldn't be affected at all. But at the end of the day, whatever company we do close with today is going to have to be a company that knows how to deal with the current situation, because the companies that the builders that could build today are only the builders that know how to deal with the situation. So the timeline should be good. Now, in terms of, let's see. So a few people asked about that they're making Aliyah soon. Should we buy now or should we wait? So first of all, every person has his own scenario that we can speak to them about. We're here for these kind of questions. But just for the general picture, currently the prices have been going up significantly. Literally every month we've had a price increase, just because there are a lot of different variables. First of all, there are a lot of people making Aliyah and buying in Karmei Gat currently. There are also there are a lot less there's a lot less construction than there was. So the supply is going down and the demand is rising. So obviously the prices are going up. So you could technically wait till next year, but we don't know what we'll have in stock and what the prices will be like then. But by the way, if you are making Aliyah, maybe Zevi, maybe you could speak to them, like maybe you could answer specifically that question. You mentioned it before in the slideshow, but if someone's making Aliyah in the next year, he does have tax breaks. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, there's a way you can potentially enjoy both tax breaks depending on the price, depending on the timing. You can work one of them in. Obviously, speak to me directly and with your specifics of a timeline and price and things like that to get a concrete understanding of what it would look like when you make Aliyah, how that would affect your purchase.
But even people who are making Aliyah only in about 2 years, you could still enjoy those benefits from now already.
Correct.
Or
Single
work with
residency
those benefits
within 2 years of signing, and the Aliyah also within a year of signing. Correct.
Yeah. We're not, a few people asked us, we're not the developer. We are a company that markets different developments across Israel. We primarily focus on Karmei Gad and Beit Shemesh. So we're not the actual developer, but we work with them hand in hand for a few years. We've been working with them for a few years now on different developments as well.
We market this development exclusively.
Yeah, we're exclusively for this development. Yeah. So a few people asked about building permits. Our project was already okayed in the local government, and we're pending permits. Hopefully they'll come in the next month or two, but our plans were already okayed.
So this is a good question. Somebody asked, does the building index always go up? Is it a year? Is it per year or per contract? So it's an excellent question. So the builders index, like Zevi mentioned, is calculated by the Bureau of Statistics, and it calculates the cost of building. So if the cost of building goes up, the index also goes up. The index is published every 15th of the month. So it goes up monthly. It's only some of the contract is linked to the index. I think Zevi spoke about that briefly. And if you have any more questions about that, feel free to reach out either to him or to us. I'll be happy to explain it.
There's someone that asked, as an Israeli war veteran, are there any discounts applicable? So we actually do have a special discount for war veterans, Israeli war veterans. So you could reach out to us. The company, the entrepreneurial company that's standing behind this development is called Be'emunah. Someone asked here, and we're pre-permits right now. You sign, you put 7% down, and then you put the rest once we get the permits. The 7% goes to escrow. So it's a very safe deal.
So somebody asked here, how is the property market currently in Israel since the war started? So that's an excellent question. So the first couple of months were basically everything shut down. People were in shock. Developers were in shock. There were no workers. But since then, the market has sort of started evening out, has plateaued, and it's really a good thing. They brought in more Chinese workers. They brought in Indian workers, Bangladeshi workers, and we're not back to full capacity, but overall, I'd say like a considerable amount of the projects are moving forward. Maybe not on the full scale like it was before the war, but there are definitely builders working. The same builder has three developments in Beit Shemesh. One he already completed, and the other two he actually has workers there, and he is committed to delivering the apartments, even though it's been tough, and cost of construction has risen.
Okay, so I think we covered most of the questions. There are a bunch of questions here. So if your question was not answered, you're welcome to reach out. Again, you could scan here. We'll also send an email afterwards. We also have our contact info here. So we really thank you for joining us today, and Batzlacha.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.